If you're anything like me, you love turbo cars. The surge of torque, the noises, and above all, the ability to squeeze gobs of power out of an engine just by dialing up the boost and pressing a couple buttons. But naturally aspirated horsepower has always been a little bit more rewarding, especially now. Here in 2025, it's increasingly more difficult to find an experience like this. I mean, a high-revving, naturally aspirated manual transmission sports car like this Porsche Cayman GT4. This pretty much does it perfectly from the factory, but that's not enough for some people. So this one behind me has been punched out from the factory 3.8 liters to 4.5 liters, and it makes more horsepower per liter than an Aventador SVJ. That's insane. Let's go for a drive. Today's gonna be a great day. All right, it's been a minute since I've been in a Cayman GT4. In fact, the only other Cayman GT4 I've driven was back in, I don't know, 2018, and that was a Sharkworks car. We met up with Alex down in Northern California and drove a lightly modified 981 Cayman, which this is. That car had shorter gears and an exhaust. That was pretty much it. It was amazing. Probably still to this day, the best manual transmission mid-engine car I've ever driven. This thing might change that. But we all know special cars like this are only enjoyable if they're not tied up with your insurance company after a hit and run. That's where the VIOFO A329S dash cam comes in. So the A329S is an upgraded version of their A329 and packs a few important features in addition to Sony's latest Starvis 2 image sensors with a higher frame rate and HDR tech. The 3-channel version I'm using today uses a 4K camera facing forward, 2K for the inside, and then 2K facing towards the rear for the clearest picture. If you've ever shot video before, you know how important HDR is, balancing out those really bright spots in the image with the darker ones. And here, as an example, it could help make a license plate really clear at night, where otherwise it would be way too bright with your headlights shining on it. Who knows, maybe you want to capture those police interactions or see who sideswiped you in the parking lot. So this new interior camera has a 210-degree fisheye perspective that'll cover your side windows too. That's really important. Or stick with the standard ultra wide so you don't get that distortion around the edges. And for night vision, it uses 4 infrared LEDs up there so you don't miss anything. In addition, to be able to save clips using voice commands while you're driving, or hooking up an external SSD up to 4 terabytes to record footage, you're also able to wirelessly transfer your footage over the camera's Wi-Fi, downloading a 1-minute 4K clip in less than 10 seconds. If you're worried about your car's battery dying overnight or while you're parked, this is where it gets good. So once you shut off your vehicle based off of voltage or a timer you set, the camera will choose your choice of parking settings to capture any shenanigans while you're gone. For example, you could set it up so for the first hour you're parked, it takes a time lapse, and then after that, it switches into a low power impact detection mode, using minimal energy to wait in standby in case someone hits your car. Once it detects an impact, it'll turn on within 2 seconds and record a 1-minute clip to save. I don't have to tell you how special some of these cars are, and if you follow me on Instagram, you would have seen a few months ago, I witnessed an E30 M3 get T-boned out of nowhere. And sure, he had me as a witness, but he didn't have a dash cam. I'm not sure how it all played out. It was not his fault, but I'm sure having a dash cam would have made the insurance process a whole lot easier. So if you want to pick up your VIOFO A329S dash cam, they've got a 2-channel setup. They've got the 3-channel that we used in this video, as well as a bunch of optional accessories that I used in this video. The links are down below, and if you use code ROADS329S on their site, you get 5% off. Thanks guys, and back to the video. So the factory car made about 385 horsepower for this generation in factory form out of a 3.8 liter and a flat 6. The latest, the 718, which, rest in peace, is ceasing production in a couple of months. Apparently, the last gas-powered Caymans and Boxsters, which kind of sucks. We'll see how long that lasts, you guys, but that's a whole other video. those later cars made about 414 horsepower and 310 pound-feet of torque. And then the GT4 RS, which this kind of is trying to go up against a little bit just with a manual transmission, makes 440 horsepower and 330 pound-feet of torque. So the DeMan Motorsport 4.5 liter engine makes 565 horsepower and over 450 pound-feet of torque. Now what that translates to your particular dyno at the wheels is going to be different car to car, of course, but there are a number of cars that obviously have been dynoed at this point. You can reliably expect, depending on the tune, this one's on a 91 octane tune, above 500 wheel horsepower. That's incredible. So first things first, we're gonna hit the exhaust flap in the muffler. That, of course, sends all the exhaust gases through the right holes. It's still got the factory muffler, and then it's got an aftermarket X-pipe after that, and the exhaust tips are obviously different too. The headers are different. Wow, that revs up quickly. One little blip and it's popping up to 6,000 RPM with absolutely zero effort. It's a car that immediately feels very approachable. You know, the clutch is incredibly heavy. It's got an aftermarket clutch to hold the extra power, but it's, once you're driving, incredibly easy to feel at home, and the steering is almost too light on center. There's actually not a ton of feel on center. It's incredibly sharp. Typical Porsche steering. Once you get into it, it is just about perfect. The front end is light, but there's a ton of grip thanks to these 265s, and out back, anytime the rear end arrives at that sweet spot for grip in a corner, it's telling me through the seat by feel, not yelling at me through the tires. And yeah, I'd rather be touched than yelled at. The GT4 is so balanced and connected, something the extra power hasn't dulled. In fact, it bounces in the opposite direction thanks to a shortened gear set, 2 through 5, and a lightweight flywheel. Shorter gears, more power. Wow. That is incredible. The torque from 4,000 RPM is proper quick in a car that weighs about 3,000 pounds. Yeah, that's incredible. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, at the low end, if I don't need to, the low end feels a lot quicker than a 992 GT3 RS. I mean, even here, third gear, uphill, 3,000, and you've got incredible torque. It has kind of taken away a little bit of the need to rev it all the way out. You don't have to hit 8,000 RPM. Do you still want to? Yeah. In a 992 GT3 RS, you have to hit 8,000 plus RPM. You have to stay above like 5 in that car really to extract it. But that's the most surprising thing about this car. It doesn't just like enhance what's already amazing about these engines, which is a high revving, rewarding experience that you want to rev out, that you really had to in the stock car rev out to get the most out of it. It kind of in a weird way does both. In a weird way, it reminds me of a big power cammed LS in, you know, a C5 or C6 Z06. It's old school hot rodding taken to the extremes. Yeah, you have a ton more top end power. You don't have a torque dip in the torque band either. You've got the best of both worlds. You've got meaty, like light to light kind of torque where you can play with other cars. Easy to shift, although that light flywheel takes a minute to get used to.
Man, this shit is messing with my pictures.
DeMan Motorsports, obviously, they're not the first ones to modify naturally aspirated Porsche flat sixes. There are a ton of tuning shops doing the turbo cars, but like I mentioned, NA power is a lot more difficult, but a lot more rewarding to extract out of a car like this. It's also a lot more expensive. This one started out as a 3.8 liter. Of course, the next generation, the 718s, are a 4 liter. Previously, DeMan offered a stroker kit that brought your 3.8 liter engine up to 4 liters. So this one, being 4.5, is stroked. The stroke is the same as the 718 4 liters, and then it's bored out from, I believe it's 102 millimeters to 108 millimeters, 4.5 liters. So effectively a Ferrari 458. That's what we're dealing with. A ton of power. Now the owner of this car is Nathan from AutoTempest. He owns AutoTempest, and he actually lives here in our own backyard. This is his personal car. The reason he rebuilt this is an interesting story. He was at the track, and his engine, his 3.8 engine, actually blew up. And apparently, I didn't know this, those factory engines, if you run them hard, high revs consistently at the track, some of them, depending on the car, they'll shear the cam bolts effectively. I'm no engine builder, but yeah, they pulled the oil filter. There were chunks of metal, which is never a good sign. And Nathan got a quote for a new engine from Porsche, and it was a lot of money. And at that point, you're like, well, hey, if I'm gonna spend that much money, can I get someone to rebuild it better? And that's where DeMan comes in over in New York. And so they built this for effectively, at the end of the day, you guys, gearing, everything included, for effectively the same price as it would have cost to get a brand new 3.8 liter engine from Porsche and just get back to where you were to begin with. So yeah, as far as I'm concerned, this is the most expensive while you're in there modification, but it worked out so well. Of course, the rods and pistons are not stock, creating the most unbelievable footnote of this build. It's 13.4 to 1 compression ratio. It's built to run on 98 octane or higher race fuel, so this one on 91 certainly makes less than 565 horsepower, but on 98 it'll make 125 horsepower per liter over the factory 101. Here's a quick before and after. The area under the curve speaks for itself. For the sake of your ears, I'm gonna turn on auto rev match so you don't have to deal with my less than optimal downshifts. Oh, there we go. That's like a PDK-esque downshift right there. Insane. It's not an unmanageable level of power. Absolutely not. God, the thing changes direction on a dime. Oh wow, okay, it's a lot louder outside the car. Suspension stiff. From the factory, these came with Bilstein dampers. Those OEM dampers are still here, just with a set of Tarett springs, a few other suspension components, and above all, an incredibly aggressive track alignment. Would I daily this car? Probably not. It's a great weekend car. This one I'm driving today has been spec'd with the carbon bucket seats. The GT4 is in such a great position in the Porsche lineup, right? Because you can drive this any number of ways. You could potentially daily this if you spec'd it with the comfort seats, or you can just have it as your weekend track car, which is what the owner of this car does, especially if you spec it with these bucket seats. You're not getting in and out of these seats comfortably like 5 times a day, as we do here on video shoots, but it's like, it feels like such a simple car. It feels like it could be a factory car. It's a little bit stiff, but once you find a smooth road like this, the only thing is, yeah, with the alignment, it follows little ruts and divots in the road a little bit, so you definitely have to have your hands on the wheel. It really makes you appreciate the anti-EV culture of today in the worst way possible. I think EVs can be great for dailies, but the weight sacrifice, it's like this thing where over the last 10 years, weight has gradually increased and gradually, incrementally, just appeared and shown itself and just injected itself into your life. It's not until you get back into something like this where you appreciate a 3,000 pound car. Something I feel like I could pick up with my fingers. It is something we took for granted for so long. For so long. In a brand new Cayman, the only naturally aspirated manual you can buy right now is a 4-liter GTS. Okay, and that does not have the suspension this has. It does not have the added aero and a few other things. It's just not track ready like a GT4 is, right? You can no longer buy a brand new GT4. You can only buy an RS, and of course those are PDK only. And if that's your thing, that's awesome. But those cars are also between $200,000 and $250,000 USD. You can grab one of these for $90,000 to $110,000 USD. Budget minimum $30,000 for this engine build, and that's without all the added stuff, the gearing. You want the whole package. That's, you know, if you're already spending 30, you may as well spend an extra 20. It's about 50,000 US all in, right? But at the end of the day, you have a car that feels OEM and that competes in spec sheets and on paper with cars that cost a lot more than this. I mean, this is the road we were given today. If I had a choice, and if I had a lot more time, if we could put a lot of mileage on this car, there are bigger roads I would rather take this car on. But the gearing helps. It enables you to actually drive a road like this and have a lot more involvement than you would otherwise have. That's the point. That's exactly the point. It is so far from a factory GT4. It's further than I expected. Thank you, Nathan, for the seat time. Cannot thank you enough. This has been an incredible experience. It's exactly what it sounds like it would be. The torque shove is insane. The throttle is as connected as it'll ever get. The brakes are firm and short. I feel like my foot's actually connected to the pads themselves. It's not scary fast, but on a tight road like this, it is. It's kind of insane what they've done here. And above all, it's a manual mid-engine experience Porsche no longer offers from the factory. Thanks for watching, and if you haven't turned notifications on, you're going to miss the next video, which is a manual swapped C63 AMG. See you then.